What is up, people? So I'm recording while my cat is over here. Yeah, she just likes just being around when I'm filming. Just casually, have to just turn on my camera while she's here, and we're good to go, aren't we? That's my cat. That's my cat. She likes this, don't you? You do, don't you? I remember the first time my channel actually started getting traction. That's when I first made that video on Sadhguru. Since then, I've come a long way covering a lot of different topics. But Jaggi has always been my favorite. I've always said that single handedly he has brought down the IQ of the entire nation by several points, several tens of points, I think. I think now for me, it's time to help give back to the society by showing you what kind of shit he spouts from his mouth. So we're gonna react to him, and we're gonna take a look at this video, The Mystical Secrets of Water. Now, I've talked about water memory, I've talked in detail about the study that Sadhguru cites when he says water memory, when he talks about water memory. But I think simply going through this video, looking at the flaws in what he says, should give us a better take on what his understanding or what his claims of water memory are. And let's go through this. For anyone who wants to watch the video where I in detail covered this and the studies that went into it, you can go to my main channel. I'll link that video in the description also. But yeah, let's watch.
There are experiments to show how water does not respond the same way to every person who approaches it. And what?
The experiments that he's talking about are Masaru Emoto's experiments, which I've gone into detail on my main channel video. Now, the problem with those experiments is that one, very poor control. There is no control, I would say. Actually, there is some control, but it's very poor. Just a basic peer review on the experiments or the reports that he made will be enough to show that this is a very poorly done experiment. Conclusions drawn with this experiment cannot be relied upon. I think what he did basically was he took some rice in three different jars. He said good words to one, he said bad words to one, and he said nothing to the other. The way the rice, they rotted or changed color, the bowls of rice, the jars of rice, the way they changed color or grew fungus in it, he concluded that as being rice kept in water responds to certain emotions that you say in your words. You can see how the poor sample size, the poor controls, there could be other biases in this experiment as well, like sampling bias, all these things. You can see how this experiment is very poorly designed, and so the conclusions may not be reliable. And that was he never actually published any of this in a reputed journal. He published a book in which he wrote what his interpretation of the experiment was. But anyone can write a book on anything. Books are not an indicator that whatever is being said is reliable, is anywhere near accurate. Books are nothing, bro. Like, you can find books for every single thing. Like, go to the self-help section of any store. And also, this video is very long, so we're only gonna look at the first maybe 5 or 10 minutes of it, and I'll just show you the rate at which he's spouting pseudoscience.
Almost everything that people call as normal life is generally handled. You see the Jivarasam? You put this in your house and…
See, these kinds of things are absolute pseudoscience. So he'll qualify everything he's about to say with all these pseudoscience ideas like the one he just talked about, and in the end he's going to sell you a product and he's going to say the water inside this is divine or whatever, it has magical powers. You take this and your health will improve, all that shit, all that untestable shit he'll say.
You consume this water on a daily basis, you will not get into chronic ailments.
See? Okay, let's get into the video and see his bullshit.
Water, jala, neer, Arachamanyam, as it's known in Sanskrit language. In many ways, water is fundamental or among the most important ingredient of physical aspect of the life-making process. Today, a lot is being said in scientific terms about how water is fundamentally life-making, not just as an ingredient, not just as one more ingredient, but as an active participant in the making of life.
So he's trying to build up to the product marketing that he's going to do in the end. So he says all these great qualities of water, but we understand the science behind how life on Earth is based in water. All organisms have molecules of water that are part of the building blocks that build up their bodies. So without molecules of water, you cannot have life. But so all of what he says makes it sound mystical and supernatural when it's all just empirical science.
This is something always many cultures in the world have been aware of. But we have an issue that unless it comes from a laboratory, it cannot be really true.
So he said, unless something comes from a lab, we have an issue that we don't accept it as true. I think true is a word we should avoid in these contexts. Now, I'll come back to that, but first I want to see how easily he's disregarding research and evidence and all that. Any lab-based research is nothing to him. What he says is what's true. You have to believe what he says is true, is what he's trying to imply with this statement. But see, we try to design experiments or whatever research we're doing, whatever study we're doing, in such a way that the conclusions of the study are reliable. So in Masaru Emoto's case, what he could have done is remove sampling bias. That means instead of taking all the rice from one place or all the rice from maybe 2 or 3 places, he could have taken it from many different places and had many different samples instead of just 3, kept them in different rooms, or maybe maintained things like temperature and humidity of the environments as constant so that they don't become a factor, and set the words in such a way that they won't reach another of these rooms. So all this wasn't done. So this makes it a poorly designed experiment whose conclusions are not reliable. Had he done all this, the conclusions would have been a little more reliable. This is why we do experiments, to get reliable conclusions. I'm not saying true conclusions, because there could have been some aspect of experiment design that we could have overlooked that made the study unreliable. So we're not doing experiments, lab research to get the truth. We're trying to get something that is reliable. It can still be false, but it's reliable. It's the best evidence that we have to go with right now. And we shouldn't go with someone's word, like what Sadhguru is trying to do over here. But yeah, he can't do any of what he's about to do without first throwing lab work and research out the window, which is what he just did.
Though it's the most obvious truth that anybody who's paid a little bit of attention to life would notice that there is a certain aspect or a certain dimension of participatory role for water in everything that's life.
When he says things like he said a certain dimension, a certain aspect, that helps him be a little more vague. Instead of going into specifics where people can easily say that he's wrong, he's trying to be vague by using words like a certain to avoid being falsified, avoid being shown wrong.
In the last decade, or a little more than that, much is being said in modern scientific language as to how water has both memory and intelligence of its own.
Yeah, he's making it doesn't have so the experiment that he's talking about, the Masaru Emoto experiment, did not show memory or intelligence. It showed emotions. But when you start spouting pseudoscience to make it more elaborate, more awesome and more believable, you will extrapolate and add words, add adjectives that weren't concluded in the original experiment, even though that may have been poorly designed.
It is not just reacting to various things happening around it, it is responding. And water's response to different inputs is different. There are experiments to show how Water does not respond the same way to every person who approaches it. So if the water does not respond well to you, you're a done case.
He's never specific. Have you noticed? He doesn't mention what experiment, who did the experiment, where was it done, what are the specifics of the experiment, none of that. It's just, hey, there are experiments to show this, there are experiments to show that.
Over 72% of your very physical body is water. If the water doesn't behave well with you, you're done.
That's demonstrably wrong. Nobody dies because water doesn't behave well with them. You can look at the entire population of Earth. Also, human bodies are not 72% water or whatever. It's around 60%, depending upon your muscle composition in your body and fat composition in your body. That can vary from 55 to about 65, but it's always somewhere in this range. It is not 72.
Your physical life is going to be a horror story in so many ways.
Give me examples. Prove your point.
You can be vaccinated for every disease there is and there isn't. But your physical life is going to be a horror story because water does not respond well to you.
Great, Jaggi. Why don't you prove your point by giving examples at least?
Why wouldn't water respond well to you? To put it in a very simplistic way, if you do not approach this dimension consciously or unconsciously, appropriately, water may choose not to respond to you well. You may be living wantonly right now, but water is responding largely to your karmic substance. The fundamental reverb that you're setting forth, based on that, accordingly it'll respond.
So vague. Like, what do you… कहना क्या चाहते हो? Right? I get that comment a lot.
So, if we find that somebody has this issue of the very water, which is nearly 2/3 of our body, or more than 2/3 of our body, nearly 3/4 of our body.
No, it's not. It's less than 2/3 of our body.
Is not behaving well within us and just about everything is going wrong with the system, then water-based kriyas and karmas are done so that you make friends with water.
Yeah, and give you money, right?
Because if you're not friends with food, you can still manage, only 12%. But if you're not friends with…
Okay, you know what? I can't sit through the whole thing. I'm getting a headache already. So I'm gonna try and look for the parts where he's talking about the actual experiment.
Well, it's come a long way with its evolution and everything, but the fundamental composition of life in terms of being almost 3/4 of it being water has not changed. This is true with every life, not just with human life. So the phenomena of water on the planet is…
There are jellyfish that are 90% water. Some plants and their fruits, they have different composition in the fruit and in the rest of the plant. This is what happens when someone who doesn't know science at all starts talking science.
indescribably big and complex. It's behaving in so many different ways, and accordingly it affects life, makes life or breaks life. So, this play of water in our lives is big. Conducting water
16
in the right manner
minutes he's
means
been talking about water in biological scenarios, life and stuff.
the water up there before it falls, how it feels, drink it, feel it. Then come down immediately after the waterfall, just take the water and feel it. You will see the water is silky, it's almost like, it's like silk threads. You feel like that, if you pull it out, it's almost coming like that in your experience. Not that water has become thread, but because of the sheer force, a certain natural amount of implosion is happening. Because of this, the molecular structure is rearranging itself in such a way that it becomes far more conducive for life.
Molecular structure of water. Like what? I think I've heard him say, I think this was in IIT Madras or something. He said something like, molecular structure of water can be changed without changing its chemical structure. What the hell are you talking about? What differentiate this molecular structure and chemical structure for me? What are you talking about? See, scientific terms without knowing the science.
Today, they have created implosion machines. Some inventor in UK has patented this, and this is being used in agriculture now. If you implode the water, just by a certain way of churning it, creating a centrifugal force which turns inward rather than going outward. You must understand all energy on the planet is released. Today, all modern technology happens because of explosion. When I say explosion, don't just think of a big bomb exploding. If you start the car, what's
Where's an explosion in a computer, in a mobile phone?
happening in the engine is explosions. Continuously, something is exploding. So almost everything that we do in the name of technology, all machines that we build are releasing energy by explosion.
Engines, sure. Internal combustion engines, sure. I agree. But all technology is basically explosions. What are you talking about?
Wherever there is explosion, there is a tremendous waste of energy because once it explodes, you cannot control. See, right now, you run your car, then you go and touch the bonnet, you don't get to touch the engine. If you touch it, your hands will burn out. If you just touch the bonnet or even go near it, it's so hot. All this energy is just going out.
Yeah, I agree. There is a lot of energy being wasted in cars and internal combustion engines, wasted as heat. But how's that true for all technology? See, I'll just skip to like the most watched parts.
Allow making of a new deity. But this deity is melting away, people have drunk it up. It was made for that purpose. Periodically you must replace it as people drink it up. People should drink up the god. No? Because what is the idea and what is the point? We want to drink the gods. We want to eat them up so that they become part of every cell of our body and happen in a certain way. So teeth and prasad, very important. It's not because you've not eaten at home, you go to temple for that one drop of water or for that one little something that they give you. It's not because you have no food at home or water at home, because you want to take in water which has a certain type of memory, the memory of the divine, so that it functions within you in a certain way. So this science has been elaborated in many, many ways, in many absolutely incredible forms.
Yeah, so vague, Sadhguru. Just tell us where the science has been done.
He and his wife just lived on the banks of Ganga. Just every day, Ganga water consumption and a dip. He just completely came out of that ailment. In my own experience, for 27 years, without a break, every year I went to Himalayas for trekking. I think only last 4 years or 5 years, I took people and then I gave up too much management, and now our Sacred Walks is doing that. Otherwise, all those first 22 or 23 years I went alone by myself.
Yeah, right.
Many, many days, just drinking 2 to 3 times Ganga water, no food, nothing. I just trekked every day in the mountains, 18, 20 kilometers a day. No food, I was just fine, fully charged up, just drinking this water. Distinctly different, especially beyond Gangotri. If you go and drink the Bhagirathi water, you see it just fires you up.
I don't think I can watch the rest of the video. But yeah, I mean, things like mountain water charges you up. There could be a lot of other factors that make you feel energetic. It could be the change in oxygen levels. It could be the change in temperature. It could be change in altitude. It could be change in atmospheric pressure around you. It could be what you ate that day. Need not be just the water. Of course, I'm not discounting the water. Maybe there could be some effect there. But how are you isolating just that and concluding that the water is what gave you the energy? But yeah, one video we saw tremendous amounts of pseudoscience that he's spouting. Maybe I'll do more of these in future. But yeah, that's Sadhguru for you. I'll see you in the next one.